Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Inside Out Smile. I'm your host, Dr. Amber Q, and you may be wondering at today's title, but let me explain. It all started off, I think, yesterday and today actually, when I bumped into a couple of people and had some really quite lovely interactions. So the first was I was in a store and I saw a couple of girls. There were three girls and they each had a bunch of flowers and they were giggling away. And I think that's what really caught my attention. They were giggling away and they seemed quite young. They must have been, I don't know, 15 or something, 15 or 16. Actually, no, I know they were 16 because I couldn't help myself. You know me. Anyone that knows me knows I'm very curious about people and I love people. So I asked them, I said, listen, girls, what is the deal? You're giggling away and you've each got a bunch of flowers. So what's happening? And they told me that they'd sort of done a secret Santa kind of thing, but they'd done it in terms of having just finished their GCSEs. So it was a little celebration or, celebration type of thing, just having finished their exams. And it turned out they'd all wanted flowers, so they'd bought each other's flowers. They'd all sort of bought each other flowers, which I think is so lovely. You know, the innocence on their face, they were just so sweet. It was just so lovely. And it was just so lovely. I wish them the best of luck with their results. And it was just really lovely. It was a lovely moment. And then today I was with my dad as he was going in for a scan at the hospital. And there was a lovely chap beside me or opposite me with his mother. And he started talking about the fact that they'd gotten there quite early because you never know about traffic. So then we started discussing roadworks. And then from there, he proceeded to tell me where he lived. And I have this effect on people. And then he told me that he had had an accident recently. He'd fallen in his home. He'd been alone. And his ex-wife had found him. And his daughter lives abroad. And basically, I don't know if he's listening, but if you are, I'm glad you're okay because you look like a really lovely guy. Anyway, so basically, he ended up having a bleed on the brain. He had to be operated upon, otherwise they said that he would be dead. And essentially here he is. He had his op, it was all great, and here he is. And it's interesting, isn't it, when people just kind of spill these details about themselves. And I really felt, my gosh, so he was on his own, alone at home. His daughter's abroad. His ex-wife had visited. So that was quite nice. I'm not sure if he'd said that his daughter had alerted his ex-partner. Anyway, it's so interesting the way people reveal details about themselves. He was really lovely. He had the kind of face where you just know it's a good soul, And then essentially, my dad went in for a scan. And then as I was coming out from the scanning area with my dad, his mum was going in and he was in the waiting area. And I wished him luck. And I said that I was glad he was okay and I hoped he remained healthy. And I do hope that. And it's just, it's just these moments. And then, of course, on social media, we have moments where obviously nowadays there are lots of Palestinians saying, please don't scroll. And they're telling their story. And I say that akin to sort of random acts of kindness, we have these random sort of acts or moments of connection, I think, with our fellow humans. And I say random or not because I don't think these things are random. I think everything happens for a reason. I hope that, I don't know, I hope that somehow I gave some comfort to that chap in the hospital today. And it was so lovely. Maybe those girls giggling lifted my kind of spirit and optimism for the world and for the future? I'm not sure. But essentially, I think that, and obviously when we see these people online who are suffering so much, it really touches your soul, even though obviously that's online and not in person, but you can feel their pain and their suffering, even though, as a doctor who'd been to Palestine said, it's one thing you see it and you see the suffering, but when you're actually there, it's the smell of everything that's happening around you. And obviously the smell is just one aspect. I don't want to get too graphic here. I will put some videos in the show notes, so if you would like to see some interviews of doctors who have been to Gaza, then please feel free to watch those. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that connection, whether it's online or offline, is it random or is it there for a reason? Why do these things happen? And I think, it is wonderful to connect with people in your community or, in reality, right? Physically, face to face. And it's funny, isn't it? Because if I hadn't spoken to those girls, if the chap hadn't told me today that he'd had the bleed on his brain, he would have just been a chap in a waiting room and I wouldn't have known much about him. He had a lovely smile. His mum looked really sweet as well. So I would have noticed that. But it's only when you speak with people that I learnt so much about him. And equally, online, we are seeing, although Zionists are trying to dehumanize the Palestinians, the entire population of Palestinians, we hear their stories, we see them and we feel them, even though obviously we can't. I mean, who can empathize with them, because it's so hard, right? We don't know. We haven't experienced the awful things that they've experienced. And I can't even imagine what they're going through. But we feel that connection because they are brothers and sisters in humanity. Even if one doesn't share a religion with them, we share the fact that we are from the same human race. And I think that's just something to think about, to let that sink in. And obviously a lot of people do feel like that, which is why there's so many protests, which is a wonderful thing. But yeah, I think, just having those interactions in the last couple of days, it gives one hope for the future, and it just shows us we're all the same. We're all just trying to survive, whether it's a human, whether it's an animal who is basically another living, a sentient being who just speaks a different language than us, and whether it's plants as well or living beings. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how many interactions have you had or do you have on a daily basis with strangers? Do you feel curious about the people around you in your local vicinity, but also around us in the world? Because the world is a very small place. And I think it's something to ponder about. So until the next episode, let's all create connection and not just change lives, but save lives.